Hello, my dear learners. I am Dr. Akanksha Shrivastava, and today we are going to discuss media and rights, issues and challenges. Let's discuss the learning outcomes of the module. The very first one is to understand the dynamics of freedom and responsibility of media within constitutional premises. The second one is to understand the challenge of protecting individual rights and allowing free speech on social media. Third one is to discuss the influence of former cases in shaping this freedom of speech. And the last is to learn about the issues caused by media trials and disinformation, focusing on the need for ethical reporting and a strong regulation. Now let's start with the introduction of this topic. Media plays a significant role in shaping public opinion, giving information to people and promoting democratic ideals altogether. Technological advances significantly affect the media, changing how it works and in turn creating new problems. Also, these changes in technology can have effects on basic human rights. This means the changing media landscape may threaten or cause problems with people's basic rights. The difficulties and issues connected to media and rights make it even more important to balance freedom of speech and individual rights carefully. A big problem concerning media and human rights is that it's really hard to find a balance between supporting free speech on one side and stopping the hate speech. Now, because of the ease with which information can be sent on social media, hate speech and false information can spread very rapidly, which is of course a big problem. Keeping free speech protected while reducing the harm caused by hate speech is a demanding situation that the leaders and media outlets must handle. It is practically important that a precarious balance is maintained between the fundamental rights of expression and the right to one's privacy. To protect people from discrimination and keep a solid democratic dialogue going, we need strict rules and careful reporting standards. This spread of false information and fake news has made it really harder for the media and the rights to work together. It's getting harder every day to tell the difference between the trusted sources and the false information or misleading information at a time when information is spreading so quickly. Promoting media literacy and critical thinking skills, therefore, is very crucial to give people the power and help them navigate this information environment more easily. The existence of a free, independent and powerful media is the cornerstone of democracy, and specifically in a diverse country like India. And for this, we have Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. So now let's discuss this Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A, which is right to freedom of speech and expression in detail. This Article 19 is one of the most essential imperative articles embodying the basic freedoms necessary for the objective sought to be achieved by the fundamental rights. Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A of the Indian Constitution guarantees the fundamental rights of individuals in India, which is to communicate their opinions and ideas, hence protecting their liberty. This vital provision is included in Part 3 of the Constitution, which establishes the fundamental rights granted to the citizens. Now let us discuss a very important case, which is the case of the state of West Bengal versus Subodh Gopal Bose. In this case, the court recognized these freedoms as the natural rights which are inherent in the status of a citizen. However, reasonable restrictions are set on the enjoyments of rights included in Article 19. Regulations on these rights should be only on the grounds that are cited in Article 19 and not on any other additional grounds. If we talk about Clause 2 to 6 of Article 19, it permits the state to impose reasonable restrictions on exercising the rights provided in the earlier clause by passing the relevant legislations. Article 19 protects some rights of the citizens. Let's talk about that. It says that all citizens shall have the right, A, to freedom of speech and expression, B, to assemble peacefully and without arms, C, to form associations or unions, D, to move freely throughout the territory of India, E, to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India. The F1 is omitted, which was right to property, and G is to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. Now, it is not against the law for the state to make some new laws or change the existing ones if those new laws put reasonable limits on the exercise of the right provided for in subclause A, in the interest of India's sovereignty and integrity, or the security of the state, or good relations with other countries, public order, morality or decency, or if they are about the contempt of court, libel, or encouraging someone to commit an offense. Now let us discuss why this Article 19, Clause 1 and Subclause A was actually created. What are its objectives? So let's discuss the objectives of this article, which is freedom of expression. Now this freedom of expression, as under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A of the Constitution, seeks to achieve the following objectives. The very first one is the societal good. How it promotes societal good, that is, the right to freely share thoughts and opinions without fear of punishment or harm is essential to develop a person, a society, and finally a state. B, the second objective is it helps in individual development. How? Freedom of speech is an integral part of everyone's right to develop. Being limited in any way stops our personality from developing, and being able to say what you want is important for developing your identity. This gives a chance of self-fulfillment, which is very important for individual development. The third objective is to ensure democratic values. The freedom of expression and speech is vital to effectively operating a nation's democratic processes. The third objective is to ensure democratic values. The freedom of expression and speech is vital to effectively operating a nation's democratic processes. This freedom of expression and speech provides opportunities for unrestricted debate, and the influence of freedom of speech on public sentiment regarding social, political, and economic issues is very, very critical. The fourth objective is safeguarding pluralism. The fact that freedom of speech replicates and strengthens pluralism verifies that diversity is supported and encouraged. This article safeguards pluralism as it permits the expression and opinion of every single person. Now, as we are talking about Article 19, Clause 1 and Subclause A, let us discuss some other important points covered under this article. The first among them is freedom of press. Media or press is so important that it is considered as the fourth pillar of democracy. Democracy flourishes when the legislature is vigilant and carefully considers public opinion. Freedom of speech includes the freedom to express one's opinion through different forms of communication, be it print media, radio, television, but with limitations that are considered reasonable under Article 19, Subclause 2. While the Indian Constitution does not explicitly mention the freedom of press, the concept of expression necessarily includes the press. In contemporary times, it also includes blogs and web pages, which are so common these days. By the way of judicial pronouncements over the years, there has been a paradigm shift in the application of this article, especially about the freedom of the press. Now let's discuss a very celebrated case regarding the freedom of the press as a part of freedom of speech and expression. The case I am talking about is Ramesh Thapar versus State of Madras, 1950 SCR 594. The court protected freedom of speech in Ramesh Thapar versus State of Madras in 1950, and it was among the earliest cases to be decided by the Supreme Court of India. The opposition to the prohibition on Thapar's magazine established that people are free to express their opinions without unfair limitations. Limitations are there, but no unfair limitations. The ruling underscored the importance of free speech within a democratic system. Honorable Justice Patanjali Sastry J. observed, freedom of speech and press lay at the foundation of all democratic organizations, for without free political discussion, no public education so essential for the proper functioning of the process of government is possible. Now we'll talk about the second important point, which is right to information. The right to information is a fundamental right under Article 19, Clause 1 of the Indian Constitution. The right to freedom of speech and expression includes the right to give and receive information. The Right to Information Act of 2005, which is a historical event, this particular act states that every citizen has the right to obtain information that the government controls. Let's take an example of one more case. In the critical case of the state of UP versus Raj Narayan, 1975, the Allahabad High Court wiped out Mrs. Indira Gandhi's election as Prime Minister, citing flaws in electoral malpractices. The court's decision made it clear that courts are very, very important for protecting the democratic values. And this made a big difference in politics because it showed that the courts control elections and ensure democracy works well. It also made the ideas of transparency and accountability even stronger. The third point is role of Press Council. The Press Council of India, a quasi-judicial autonomous body, was established by an Act of Parliament in 1966 to ensure that the press is free and works transparently, because press has a major role to play in democracy. It handles complaints from the public about the media and upholds the journalistic standards and encourages responsible news. The council needs to protect the rights of the press as well as the rights of the people in India. The next thing we'll be talking about is the News Broadcasters and Digital Association, that is NBDA, again a regulatory body. The News Broadcasters and Digital Association, NBDA, which used to be identified as the News Broadcasters Association, that is NBA. It is an organization for private news current events and digital presenters on TV. It is the voice of all Indian news, current events and internet broadcasters. Currently, 27 major news and current event broadcasters, which represent 125 news and current event programs, are members of this NBDA. These rights that we are talking about are not absolute, because we know that liberty has to be limited to be effectively possessed. The guarantee of these rights is therefore restricted by the Constitution itself by conferring upon the state a power to impose reasonable restrictions as may be necessary in the larger interest of the public. So let's talk about the restrictions on the right to free speech and expression. Article 19, Clause 2 indicates that limits on the right to free speech and expression can be put in place for the following reasons. The first reason is sovereignty and integrity of the nation. Second is the security of the state. Third, the friendly relations with foreign states. Next is public order, or about contempt of court, defamation, or incitement to an offense. Now, having understood this article, we need to talk about a very important topic, that is the changing dynamics of freedom of speech and expression with the emergence of social media. How social media has evolved from press to present day Twitter, and how this has affected the freedom of speech. So social media has emerged as a dominant influence in contemporary society, transforming interpersonal communication, dissemination of information, and debate in society. In this part of our module, we will explore several factors impact on media, including media rights, regulations for over-the-top, that is OTT platforms, freedom of expression on social media, and appropriate instances. We must understand that media is not only a medium to express one's feeling, opinions, but it is also instrumental for building the opinion and views on various topics of regional, national, or international importances, and therefore it is very important to consider a check on freedom of speech on social media. So let's talk about freedom of speech on social media. The rise of freedom of expression on social media platforms has promoted the dissemination of knowledge by individuals regardless of their background. However, it has even generated concerns regarding the appropriate utilization of this freedom. We have these instances of misinformation using offensive language and online harassment, illustrating the significance of balancing freedom of speech and protecting societal standards. We have to be very mindful. Platforms such as X, formerly known as Twitter, and Facebook, they face challenges in effectively moderating the content while maintaining individuals' freedom of expression. Posting on social media was considered almost the same as the fundamental right by the High Court of Tripura. This right applies to all people, like I'm talking including the employees of the government. It is also said that government workers can have political views and talk about them as long as they don't break the Tripura Civil Services Conduct Rules 1988. Now let's talk about the regulations of OTT platforms. The regulations of over-the-top, that's OTT platforms, which provides content through the internet, has emerged as a topic of growing significance in India. Most of the over-the-top platforms generally provide free content while requiring a monthly subscription fee for premium content. Usually it has been seen that OTT platforms produces and marks excellent content in collaboration with well-established production houses which have a history of creating feature films. But concerns regarding content classification, standards, and the requirement for a regulatory system have developed due to the absence of explicit regulations governing these OTT platforms. The principal concerns which we are facing, they are vulgarity, aggression, and materials that could hurt cultural and social values. Therefore, this adoption of a self-regulatory model by significant OTT players was noteworthy. Several platforms including Disney+, Hotstar, Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, all these have implemented a content code comprising content description, age-based categorization, and a mechanism for addressing the complaints. Now, this initiative aimed to reduce the worries about the explicit content while granting the users the choice to watch. The Indian central government implemented the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021 in 2022 to manage these OTT services. These regulations require social media networks, especially the OTT services, to demonstrate increased vigilance in policing the content hosted on their platforms. The framework implements a gentle and a flexible self-regulatory structure, including a code of ethics and a three-tier system for addressing the complaints tailored to OTT platforms. Now, according to these regulations, all over the top OTT platforms must join a self-regulatory organization which is officially registered with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. This organization is responsible for resolving the complaints regarding the content on various platforms. A specifically assigned grievance officer is accountable for receiving and resolving the customer concerns. And this, here you need to pay attention that the officer is required. He must promptly acknowledge the receipt of the complaint within 24 hours and effectively addresses it within 15 days. To promote responsible content distribution, the regulations require restricting access to disseminating any content that is considered to be in breach of privacy policies. Social media platforms have a responsibility, very important responsibility, to inform the users about the information, about the importance of not sharing the copyrighted material and content that may be considered insulting, ethically or racially offensive, or promoting child abuse, or posing a threat to the unity, integrity, defense, security, or sovereignty of India or its friendly relations with foreign states. Now, these privacy policies additionally include the resolution of breaches of current legislation. Let's talk about a political drama series, Tandav, which was launched on Amazon Prime Video in 2021. It received backlash for causing offense to the religious beliefs and offensively presenting specific communities. It incited protests and prompted request for a prohibition and prompted legal disputes also. The Information Technology, the Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code, we just talked about the rules of 2021, it tackled this issue. Now, there is again a very media and rights are not two very separate things. There is a proper intersection of these two things. So let's talk about the intersection of media and rights. As you can see, sting operations come under this that were very common a few days back. The convergence of media and rights in the contemporary era is an integrate domain where the influence of information intersects with the limitations of individual and community rights. This particular portion of the module will explore essential elements including the data privacy legislation, the idea of trial by media, and other crucial subjects, offering valuable perspectives on the challenges and concerns that arise from this convergence. So now we'll be talking about media and data protection law. The emergence of the digital era has raised concerns over the confidentiality and protection of people's data. Data protection rule seeks to achieve an equitable balance between the lawful interest of media organizations and the essential entitlement to privacy. An instance of this is the impact of European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, which is GDPR, on worldwide conversations concerning the safeguarding of data. The Personal Data Protection Bill, now being deliberated in India, aims to govern personal data acquisition, manipulation, and retention. Now, this becomes essential in the media context since news organizations are becoming dependent on this data analysis for precise content distribution. The difficulty is safeguarding users' privacy while preserving the media's capacity to deliver the personalized and pertinent information. The Honorable Chief Justice of India recently condemned the media for conducting biased debates and compared their proceedings to kangaroo courts, asserting that these practices are harmful to democracy. Let's understand this phrase, the kangaroo court. The phrase kangaroo court denotes a legal system in which the trial's outcome is frequently predetermined against the offender. These self-proclaimed or simulated tribunals quickly issue predetermined verdicts specifically aimed at disloyal individuals. This concept of trial by media, which is more of a daily occurrence these days, has emerged recently. Now, it describes the impact of television and newspaper coverage on a person's character, influencing public perception of guilt or innocence before or after a court verdict. The pivotal role of media is its ability to mobilize the thinking process of millions, and this is the power of media. Though not explicitly defined, media trials are indirectly supported by Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, which provides freedom of speech. However, we have to be very careful. The implications of such trials are profound and far-reaching. They adversely affect judicial functioning as concerted campaigns and biased debates in the media influence justice delivery. The media's inability to distinguish between the fact and the fiction, the right and the wrong, it adds complexity to the issue. An Indian actress is at the center of a high-profile case about the death of a Bollywood personality in 2020. The case got much curiosity from the media, and she had to deal with criticism and rumors from the public. Issues were created then about the trial by media, which means that the public opinion and decisions are based on what the media says about a case instead of the courts. Media trials have wrongfully portrayed individuals, damaging their careers based on accusations before the legal verdicts. This breach of responsibility by the media harms the democratic system, notably when electronic media lacks accountability compared to print media. Paid and fake news further manipulates this public hatred and violence and undermining community harmony. Privacy rights guaranteed under Article 21 are also compromised as the media invades individuals' personal lives. These media trials were something which started to bring to the public at large the truth about the cases. However, now it has become a practice interfering dangerously with the justice delivery system. Various bodies exist to regulate the media in India, including the Press Council of India. We have talked about it, which is responsible for preserving press freedom and maintaining standards. The News Broadcasting Standards Authority, which addresses complaints about news broadcast, while the Broadcasting Content Complaints Council handles grievances against entertainment television programs. The News Broadcasters Federation, created by those departing from the News Broadcasters Association, adds to this regulatory landscape. In essence, the critique of media practices by the Chief Justice highlights the delicate balance between freedom of press and protecting individual rights. The challenges of media trials, privacy infringements, and potential misinformation underline the importance of responsible journalism and effective regulation. Now, when we have discussed all this, we are coming to conclusion. Let's conclude it. So Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A of the Indian Constitution shows an important feature of freedoms at the heart of our democracy. It's essential to understand how powerful our voice is. Article 19 states that we can say what we think and feel as an opportunity for personal growth, societal improvement, and shaping our society. It's more than just a law. However, challenges and possibilities coexist in today's social media and media landscape that are constantly changing. We value having the freedom to say what we want on sites like X, formerly known as Twitter and Facebook, but with great power comes great duty, and we have to remember it. We must be cautious with this freedom, balancing our right to speak with our duty to follow the rules and protect people's right. Media is the fourth pillar of democracy, can be both a problem and an opportunity. It can show the truth, like in the case of Raj Narayan, 1975, but it also needs to be examined objectively. There are issues like false information, biased arguments, and privacy concerns. We have talked about all this. As citizens, we must accept responsible journalism and work for rules protecting our rights while maintaining free speech. The growth of social media shows the fast-paced nature of our digital world, and the emergence of over-the-top platforms has contributed to the discussions on data security. Everyone in India can take an active role here, calling for platforms to be responsible and protect our rights. To sum up, we all respect our rights to speak, but let's also be smart about how we use it. Let's push for news outlets that report the truth instead of sensationalization, and for rules that protect our privacy without suppressing our views as we balance our rights and duties. Therefore, with honor, we must exercise these rights with the fullest sense of responsibility. And with this, we come to the end of this module. I hope you have enjoyed and learned something new about media and rights, the issues and challenges.